Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. I know we usually have a longer introduction, but we're going to try to get down to business a little bit sooner today. Just quick introductions, real quick. We have a son. If you don't mind, just quickly introducing yourself, and then we're going to go to a larger introduction. And then, if you can also introduce our wonderful guests that we also have.
All right. First, thank you as always for inviting us back to the platform. I am Hassan Powell. I am serving as the campaign manager for the Honorable Judicial candidate Claudia Barber. Um, I don't want to go into too much detail as far as who I am now or later in the morning.
All right, that's fine.
Okay.
And then we also have Judge Barber. How you doing today?
Good afternoon. Very well. I'm doing extremely well in the middle of campaign season. So it's a busy period, but I am happy to be here and I thank you so much for inviting me as a guest.
All right, wonderful. So let's actually get into some housekeeping here right now, and then we will actually get started. So once again, if everybody can support our platform, if you do shop on Amazon, it should be in the description in this video as well. You can go to that link. Just go to Amazon. I'm sure everybody's shopping. This is one way to support. It's free, doesn't cost you anything. So just go ahead and support us there. And as usual, go to Reparations Now documentary. That's reparationsnowdoc.com. It's also free on Tubi. You can check that groundbreaking documentary that was produced by in the Mass Media Group. As always, would support and appreciate the support there. And as well, you can support us at our store at etmmediagroupstore.com. That's etmmediagroupstore.com to get your merch, Reparations Now, policy of a party, cut the check, etc., etc. So please go to our store at etmmediagroupstore.com as well. All right. So I know we have actually a lot of things going on out here in California, but I've heard through the grapevine that there's a lot of stuff going out there on the East Coast, and particularly in Maryland. So Judge Barber, I'm gonna go ahead and read, your bio, give our audience, some information about you, and then Hassan and Judge Barber. Once again, Hassan, if you want to then, after Judge Barber, if she has any other additional things that she wants to, say about herself, if you then want to jump in and kind of, reintroduce yourself to the viewership. So let's go into the bio. Oh, I'm sorry, family. Actually, before they do housekeeping, see, I usually have my partner Kim here, and she's usually checking the other side. Just one more thing that I did miss. If you guys haven't seen the New York reparations that we did with Divine, Brother Divine, and also with Reverend Coachman, they are actually one of the organizations called U.S. Freedom Project. They're actually leading the way out there in New York reparations among some other organizations as well out there. So definitely check that out. It's right here on the Mass Media Group. Great information for those that are interested in reparations in general and specifically for New York reparations. All right, so here we go. The Honorable Judge Claudia Barber. Claudia Barber is the recipient of the 2024 Lawyer of Distinction Award. She brought awareness to the composition of the Circuit Court for Anne Arundel County in 2016. In November 2016, the Anne Arundel County NAACP recognized her efforts to challenge the composition of the Anne Arundel County Circuit Court with the President's Award. Her efforts proved fruitful. In 2017, protests and demonstrations occurred in front of 8 Church Circle in Annapolis, Maryland. By 2018, the composition of the circuit court changed, which was more than 368 years overdue. She was elected second vice president of the Anne Arundel County NAACP in 2019 and first vice president of the Anne Arundel County NAACP chapter in 2020. She chaired the Legal Redress Committee and served as editor-in-chief of the Anne Arundel County NAACP branch newsletter. The newsletter won a national award. Y'all might need I might need some help on this one. Thalhammer's Award from the National NAACP. She's also the recipient of the 2022 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drum Major for Justice Award and a proud recipient of the Sojourner Truth Award from Anne Arundel County in 2022. She's a lifetime member of the National Association of Women Judges, NAWJ, where she served 2011 to 2013 as District 4 Director. She's also a lifetime member of the National Bar Association. Claudia Barber has been a member of the Maryland Bar for 35 years and a member of the DC Bar since 1994. She has practiced law for more than 22 years and began serving as an administrative law judge with the District of Columbia Office of Administrative Hearings in August 2005 until August 2016. Claudia Barber is an ordained elder with the United Church of Jesus Christ Apostolic. All right. So that is your bio, Judge. Is there anything we need to elaborate on, or was there something missing in that?
Claudia?
You accomplished a lot.
Well, thank you. I'm an avid supporter of justice, and our slogan hashtag is a trusted voice for fair courts, and that's really defines who I am and what I hope voters will seriously consider when they are weighing in the race for judges in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, this upcoming election season. Early voting begins October 24 through October 31. And even though you can register to vote at the polls, we encourage people to make sure they know that their registration status all over the country, not just in Maryland, all over the country, make sure you know your voter registration status. Especially, for example, if you're on campus in school, you don't want to go to the voting polls and learn that you can't vote because you're not registered in the specific district or county, or you don't know where your voting poll is. So all of these things matter, and voting is a constitutional right. We should not have needed a specific constitutional amendment, but it was necessary. And that is the 14th Amendment is a valuable, well-written tool, but in my opinion, it is not often enforced because the root of it is all men are created equal. The root of it is due process. The root of it is not denying due process. So these are all issues that are rooted in the 14th Amendment. And from that perspective, I'm pleased at the various work that has happened.
And if I can piggyback on that, thank you, Judge. I do want to make sure that people understand the importance of how involved the Honorable Claudia Barber has been when it comes to community work. I've found it to be a rarity, at least here in Anne Arundel County, with quite a few of our seated judges that are actively engaged in the community work. So that's something that I don't think was mentioned in her bio, but that I did want to make mention of it because I absolutely applaud you, Claudia, for the work that you do with us within the community.
Thank you. I've served on the Caucus of African American Leaders organization as well. And that leadership has resulted in many initiatives, including renaming of bridges and similar important initiatives on the East Coast.
Correct.
All right, wonderful. Artisan, so your turn. What's going on in your world out there, and DC, Maryland, and Virginia.
So let me reintroduce myself. And today I'm not serving in a capacity as the founder and president of Capital Accountability Project. Today I'm serving in a capacity strictly as the campaign manager for the Honorable Claudia Barber. But some of the things that we are doing here, first, let me say, I am serving as a commissioner for Anne Arundel County's Community Reinvestment and Repair Fund. And that's a fund that allows us to now have access quarterly to funds that are deposited for us to be able to put it out into our communities to best serve our communities with the, I'll say, with the defined needs based on surveys that we've run. And in addition, we are working on a campaign for reparative justice through the Old Fourth Ward. We now have moved to a county initiative as well as a state initiative here for reparative justice, i.e., atonement, and as some others may say it, as to be called reparations. With that, I have been honored to one support Miss Claudia Barber in collecting the 10,000 votes that she needed to even make. I mean, the 10,000 signatures that she needed to even make the ballot. And once she did that, I was honored by her. She asked me to serve as her campaign manager. And so for the next, I guess now 24 days left, as you see that Ms. Barber is in her vehicle because she's already back out on the campaign trail. I too will be back out with her. We are doing voter registrations. We participated yesterday in canvassing and voter registration. And it is very important that we understand that here in the state of Maryland, a lot of our ex felons are not aware that their voting rights were restored. And so that's a targeted group that we have reached out to. And the best way of doing that is to meet them where they are. So we've targeted our, a lot of our work with our local detention centers and so forth to let them know that you can now be a registered voter and your vote counts. And the best way to make your voice heard, especially if you're dealing with the judicial system, is to get to know a candidate who really understands what fairness is relative to the judicial system and our collective group. So one thing I would like to ask the Honorable Claudia Barber to do is to just explain to the audience what she defines fairness to be relative to the judicial system here in Anne Arundel County.
Well, fairness simply is equity and justice. It is an aspect in which you are looking at things, but you're recognizing, which is, I think, important. You're recognizing the shortcomings of the system. You recognize there is disparity, and there are many disparities in sentencing across the board. When law enforcement charges, that's why you often see an overwhelming number of charges come before you in certain neighborhoods. And, because there are plenty rich people that have been involved, for example, in possession of illegal drugs. But how is it that their cases are handled differently than poor people? That's not an equity at all. That's not fairness at all. So understanding that many people that come before you, they might have a rap sheet of various charges that were leveled against them, and you have to recognize the inequity situation, and recognize statistics, recognize the disparity in sentencing, and recognize that this exists. You cannot overlook it and assume that it's non-existent and okay, let's level the playing fields now. There still is an imbalance in the way law enforcement attacks and charges people of color versus people who are of the majority race. So you we can't be blindsided by that. And I did author a book, How to Survive Protracted Civil Litigation When the Judicial System Stopped Being Fair. And it's an important aspect of writing that book has to deal with equal access to justice and fairness and equity in the system, and recognizing those shortcomings, and the main reason I'm running is to be a candidate who is cognizant of fairness and making sure it happens head on, and breaking down systemic barriers. That's the whole reason why I'm running.
Good
All
morning.
right. So, Hassan, is there any other questions or any comments that you would like to ask the judge or comment on, or?
I just would like to highlight for the citizens of Anne Arundel County in the state of Maryland the importance of us getting involved with our down ballot. I know a lot of us feel displaced because of what's going on at the top of the ticket, but we don't understand that our voices have a larger impact in our down ballots when it comes to who our judges are, right? Who our local representatives are at our city council level, at our county council level. These things are the most important to us because they have the most direct impact in our lives. And therefore, when we think about circuit court judges, we need to understand, how does a circuit court judge touch my life? What is the scope of what a circuit court judge does? And I think, again, that Miss Barber is a champion of justice and equity and understanding the fairness or the disproportionate unfairness of the sentencings and the law. So what I would like for her to do, again, just briefly, Claudia, is explain to the audience what the role of a circuit court judge is and how it impacts your everyday life.
Well, actually,
Well,
before we do that, if we can go over the chart, and
Sure.
then maybe we can that will segue into Judge Barber and her explain. Can we do that? Is that okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So let's go over the chart, um, and then obviously Judge Barber can explain the Maryland judicial court system. So it looks like at the bottom from the top, I guess we can start from the bottom maybe. What is an orphans court? And then it goes to district court, the circuit court, and it goes to court of appeals, and then the Supreme Court. And then it says on this chart, it says there are 8 circuits in Maryland. Each county in the city of Baltimore has a circuit court. Circuit court county served. Maryland First Circuit. Looks like, are these cities? Dorchester, Somerset,
They're counties.
These are counties.
These are counties.
Okay, these are counties. Okay. And then the Second Circuit, there's some other counties, the Caroline, Cecil. I'm not going to go through all these. Third Circuit, Baltimore. Fourth Circuit, Allegheny, as some. Maryland, Fifth Circuit, and Arundel, as we explained earlier.
Arundel.
Is it Arundel?
Arundel.
Anne Arundel.
Anne Arundel.
Arundel. Okay.
Anne Arundel.
In Arundel. Okay. Maryland, Sixth Circuit, Frederick and Montgomery counties. Maryland, Seventh Circuit, Calvert, Charles, and Maryland, Eighth Circuit, Baltimore. So I just briefly wanted to go over this chart.
Sure.
And maybe I'll just leave this up for the viewers. And Judge Barber, if you can kind of explain
Sure.
this chart, and then also the circuit court, if you don't mind.
Well, I appreciate the question, because I'm going to try to give you a brief history or civics lesson when it comes to the judiciary branch. The Maryland judicial system has district court judges and orphans court judges. Right now, orphans court judges have a unique capacity because they are the only judges that run on partisan tickets in the state of Maryland. But the other judges, the rest of the judges, do not run on you're a Democrat or you're a Republican. When we fill out certificates of candidacy or direct intent to run, our party affiliation is identified as judicial. But all judges are not subject to the same election as appellate judges. And in the case of district court judges, your district court is the landlord tenant court. It handles criminal misdemeanors, and it handles um, small claims matters up to about $25,000 in damages, but there are no jury trials in district court. The judges that are appointed by the district court to the district court by, let's say, the governor makes those appointments, and then the Senate confirms their appointments, and then they serve. They are up for reappointment, but they don't necessarily have to run in any election at all. So you have district courts in all of these various jurisdictions: Wycomico County, Baltimore City, District Court of Maryland for Baltimore County, District Court of Maryland for um, Worcester County, Dorchester County, etc. So all of these counties have district courts. They all have landlord-tenant courts. That's all part of the district court system. When a case is tried in orphans court, or an orphans court largely deals with estate matters or decedents estate matters. Largely when the reason why they are at the bottom rung is because when cases are tried in those jurisdictions, if they are appealed to the circuit court. Circuit court has jurisdiction over more. They have original jurisdiction of all jury trials. So the circuit court is the jury trial court, and also the only court in Maryland that tries felonies. But you also have name change cases, you have divorce cases, family law cases, custody, child support. All of that is circuit court. So that's when you would see a judge, for example, in a child support matter. Let's say and all civil and criminal, as I said before, if it's not original jurisdiction of the district court, sometimes there are situations when you have concurrent jurisdiction. But the circuit court has a plethora of cases that they handle, and that's why many people might be impacted. Judges on the circuit court serve for 15 years or until they reach age 70. That's a mandatory requirement age in the state of Maryland for circuit court judges. If a case is appealed, let's say a jury trial occurred and someone was convicted, they have an opportunity to appeal to what's called the Appellate Court of Maryland. They recently went through a name change. It used to be the Court of Special Appeals as the intermediate level appellate court, but now it's called the Appellate Court of Maryland. And then if the outcome is unfavorable, or someone has a desire to appeal to the highest court of the land in Maryland, that court is called now the Supreme Court of Maryland. Now, judges that are appointed by the governor usually run in a retention elections. So voters have an opportunity to participate in the process. However, not at the level as circuit court judges. Appellate court judges are appointed through a judicial nominating commission process. They are appointed by the governor, and then they are approved by the Senate, but they must stand for an election. It's called a retention election, which means you're going to see judges on the ballot where you just have to vote yes or no. That's called a retention election. And those appellate judges are on our ballots as well. And those appellate judges will serve, I believe, for 15-year terms. But again, the mandatory age is 70. But circuit court, as I said before, they have an open process where you can file a certificate of candidacy and run for office on the circuit if you meet the constitutional definition of being on the ballot. So this is a unique opportunity, and there have been in the state legislator uh, uh, challenges. People want to eliminate voters' rights to choose their judges, and that's ever so important. And we have to be aware of it, and we have to make sure that we are conscious, make conscious, intentional decisions, because you might be wiping your rights to choose your own judges and not know it. And there have been some attempts, just like there have been attempts to challenge who has the right to vote in Maryland. There have been, and then there have been advocacy groups like the American Civil Liberties Union that have fought off those challenges, and the legislation didn't pass. But we have to stay abreast to make sure that voters are not um, shortchanged, and voters are not losing their opportunity to vote for judges for 15-year terms.
All right. So, just to kind of sum it up in terms of uh, where the community has the right to vote, can you just briefly go over those particular courts where the community has rights to vote?
Well, yes, in my particular election, running for circuit court judge, that is, again, is an open process. And
Okay.
that means that in my jurisdiction in particular, which is Anne Arundel County, Maryland, um, you have 4 candidates going for 2 seats, 2 open seats. So that's how the challenge is at this moment, but it could be, it can vary. You can have write-in candidates. You can have a situation where people um, run. At one time, I think one year in 2018, I think it was 7 candidates going for 1 seat. So it varies. But the important process point is that you vote. You do the research and you vote. That is the importance of voter involvement. And for 15-year terms, for people who are deciding and weighing the credibility of evidence, weighing the credibility of witnesses in criminal trials, it is important that you educate yourself about the history and background of these candidates, so that you know who you're voting for, who appointed this person, for example, and what type of history. They try to not be transparent. That's a problem about people's judicial record, and what they've the outcome of those judicial records. And I think that that's
Claudia,
also a systemic problem.
so to get back to your Moya's question, um, if my memory stands correct, the orphans court judges are voted in by the constituents as well as the circuit court judges,
Yes,
and the Supreme Court judges are appointed by the Congress, the governor. The Court of
yes.
Appeals and the district court. The Court of Appeals is also in appointment. Is that correct?
The Court of Appeals is now called the Supreme Court of Maryland, and
Right.
those judges run in retention elections, yes or
Okay.
no.
Okay. So yes, they are. Ultimately, it is the constituents that determine if they're going to
Right.
remain or not. And so for the district courts, is that also done by the constituents, or is that in appointment?
No, there is no judicial election for district court judges.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So to just be clear, to ultimately be the Court of Appeals that has recently been renamed, the Circuit Court judges, as well as the orphan court judges, are those who are subject to election by the voting constituents. The
And
district
the
court,
Appellate Court of Maryland, yes.
right, and then the district court and the Supreme Court, they don't have the voting constituents do not have the opportunity
No,
to.
no, no. The district court is the court where voters do not get to choose
Correct.
in an election process.
Correct.
For the Supreme Court of Maryland, that is the retention election option where you vote yes or no.
Okay.
Appellate Court of Maryland, that is the retention process, yes or no.
Right.
But for Circuit Court, it's an open process.
Got it. All right. So, Moya, I hope that answers your question.
Off mute here. Absolutely. And just so we understand, you said there's 2 seats available, so those 2 seats have turned out?
15-year terms.
15-year terms. Okay.
That's more than the President of the United States.
I know, right? Wow. All right. So, and silly question. So those laws, in terms of the terms, though, that's regulated by the legislators.
Laws
those
are created. We have a system in Maryland where our state legislature often mirrors the federal legislative process, meaning that the legislators, they create bills, they put them in the hopper, and they go through the legislative process through committees. Once it comes out of the committee, it goes down to the floor, and then the floor votes, and then it goes to the other chambers. If it's in the House chamber, it goes to the Senate chambers. If it's in the Senate chambers, it goes to the House chambers, and then both chambers vote on it. And then if it's favorable and it passes, then it goes to the governor for approval or veto.
Has the 15-year term ever been challenged for judges for the circuit?
Well, it has been challenged in the sense that legislation has been introduced to A, cut the terms down to 10 years, B, also challenged in terms of eliminating the open process of running in contested judicial elections and changing to something else, such as retention elections, where you just have no voice, but you just accept whoever the governor has appointed and say yes or no to their candidacy.
Okay. All right. So let's get through this here. So here are some of the candidates running in District 5. In addition to Judge Claudia Barber, we have Tom Casey, Christine Celeste, Janina Jackson Stevenson. So Judge Barber, what makes you stand out from the other candidates that are running in your district?
Well, I'm the only candidate on the ballot with over 35 years of legal experience, bar none. None of them have that type of depth of experience in their resume or credentials. Second, I'm the only candidate that has been a judge for 10 years. So I have a judicial record. I have a situation where I've authored over 5,000 decisions. And some of those decisions went to the DC Court of Appeals in the District of Columbia. And in that situation, I often had my cases affirmed on appeal. And then that distinction is also in when I served as an administrative law judge, there also was a situation where we were subject to performance evaluations. And I'm the only candidate out of the 4 that received top performance evaluations as a judge. None of them can speak to that at all. The other important characteristic about my credentials is that I've served the community, hosted job fairs, been actively, even campaigning to the extent that I introduced my candidacy to inmates at the Jennifer Road Detention Center, the Ordnance Road Detention Center. People that haven't been convicted of a crime, they're eligible to vote just like anybody that's home, that's a resident in the county. that chooses to register to vote. Anybody that's released, there's probably a 90% chance that you can vote as well if you're released. So these are all important people that are part of the community, and they should not be dismissed. They should not be ignored. And I'm the candidate that is concerned about the entire community. So I think that distinguishes me. I serve on the Anne Arundel County Transportation Commission. I asked, and they did create a task force for the underserved population and understanding the transportation needs of the underserved population. When you don't present make a presentation to the commission and say that there's this, and this wrong with the economically disadvantaged community, and sit there and leave it like that. No, you take action. You say, no, we need a task force to address these needs of transportation in the underserved communities. So we don't care about just statistics out there. We want them, be a part of change.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Appreciate that.
And if I could
Um,
just add before
yes.
we go on, some of the other distinctions, I would say that that article was a phenomenal article for you to compare all four candidates. What you will find is that you have two prosecutors, Tom Casey and Christine Celeste, um, and you can see within their comments what their stance are as we speak about the disproportionate unfairness relative to um, our community, specifically in my interest, but as well because Claudia is a candidate that's running for Anne Arundel County and all of the constituents. You can see, you can read and hear their and feel their attitudes through their comments. And then again with Miss Jackson, Miss Jackson Stevenson, uh, although she is a candidate for the judicial branch, we can, when we compare the experience of Judge Barber in comparison to the other judges, it just outweighs all of the other judges. And not only that, but the more important thing for me as a voting constituent here in Anne Arundel County is reading and understanding who really has the interest of fairness and equality when it comes to our judicial system. Understanding that this person or these two people will sit on this seat for the next 15 years is a major issue for me. And whoever we put there should be someone that is experienced and that understands the needs of all communities across Anne Arundel County, not just serving in the interest of their special groups that have maybe endorsed them. So I think that if people are able to pull that article and just read all four of their comments to the questions that were asked, you will see a distinct difference in the way Judge Barber has responded versus the other judges.
All right. Thank you for that. So, Judge Barber, is
I
there?
might just add that
Yes.
weighing the credibility of witnesses is really important. I think it's problematic if a person comes to court and you're invisible, or they don't respect you, and they don't receive your testimony as credible evidence based on who you are, or the uh, the color of your skin, and that needs to stop. So, being uh, aware of of uh, of how evidence is weighed is critically important when you're talking about choosing a judicial candidate. They have to be sensitive. They have to be aware of making sure that the system is fair and has integrity in it.
All right. Thank you for that. Actually, I was gonna go on. We actually wanted to move on, but if there's anything else we would like to go back to talk about your candidate race, Judge Barber, just let me know, and we could go back and touch on that, as well as you, son. I did want to actually talk about this lawsuit out in Evanston in terms of race-based versus lineage. So let's go over the Evanston, and also I want to look into the 14th Amendment because they're using the 14th Amendment to apply this lawsuit in Evanston. So the lawsuit in May 2024, the conservative nonprofit Judicial Watch filed a class action lawsuit against Evanston, claiming the program is unconstitutional and violates the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. The lawsuit argues that the program discriminates against non-Black residents by using race as a qualification for receiving payments. The plaintiffs are seeking $25,000 in damages in an order prohibiting the city from using race as a requirement. The city's response: Evanston first filed to dismiss the lawsuit in July 2024 and then filed a second motion to dismiss in October 2024. A federal judge will decide whether to dismiss the lawsuit forward. The reparations program. Evanston became the first city in the United States to implement a reparations program in 2021. The program offers payments to Black residents who were affected by discriminatory zoning laws between 1919 and 1969. And I will just briefly read probably the top paragraph, and then Judge Barber and Hassan, if you would like to elaborate on your thoughts on this, I would greatly appreciate it. 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, Civil Rights, 1868, passed by Congress June 13th, 1866, and ratified July 9th, 1868. The 14th Amendment extended liberties and rights granted by the Bill of Rights to formerly enslaved people. Following the Civil War, Congress submitted to the states 3 amendments as part of its Reconstruction program to guarantee equal civil and legal rights to Black citizens. A major provision of the 14th Amendment was to grant citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the United States, thereby granting citizenship to formerly enslaved people. Actually, let me go on because I think the next paragraph talks about due process and equal protection. Says another equally important provision was the statement that nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. The right to due process of law and equal protection of the law now apply to both the federal and state governments. All right, so I'll let you two weigh in on that.
Well, it would be a little bit difficult for me personally to weigh in as a judicial candidate because we have certain limitations on commenting on litigation and pending litigation and making statements that suggest we would rule a certain way in a particular factual scenario. So my comments would have to be limited in that regard.
Okay.
But as I shared before, the 14th Amendment is a critical piece of our Constitution, and it was, as I said before, well written. But it had to be written to denounce enslavement and to restore rights, specific rights. The Equal Protection Clause is a constitutional significant piece of the U.S. Constitution that is the subject of much litigation, and that is something that will continue to come before courts every day, especially federal courts.
And if I could chime in, what I would say relative to the Epstein lawsuit is that yet again, it helps us to see that our foundation of the Black American Negro freedmen fight is not one that is racial, but it is based on lineage, right? And that we can see with the Epstein case being challenged, it is being challenged on the but-for standard, meaning but for them being white, they would be eligible. And therefore, that is why it's so important for us as we advocate on behalf of our specific lineage group that we can appreciate Directive 15 from the OMB, and that we've been doing the work to get us redefined out of a racial category and into an ethnicity. We understand that here, based on the 14th Amendment, the 13th Amendment, well, I would say just our Reconstruction Amendments, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment were pivotal when it comes to those who were formerly enslaved here. And we understand that the 14th Amendment was gutted. And because of it being gutted, one of the most important things that they did let stay in there was that you could not litigate or legislate anything relative to race. As such, what we find today on Directive 15 from the OMB is that the Black/African American category is the only category on that directive that specifically talks or speaks to us being in a racial group. And that is why I can appreciate, again, the legal team that I work with here in the state of Maryland, in Anne Arundel County, those such like the Honorable Claudia Barber and many others that we have worked with, where we are working with the OMB to address the race versus lineage argument and understanding how us being put back into a racial category impedes our ability to have the right to redress our government on the basis of race. And therefore, it is of exceptional importance that we understand that lineage and ethnicity is the most important win that we can pursue at this point, because once we pursue that and we win that, such like what you all have done in California, Lamoya, by redefining what an African American is, allows them to collect data specifically on that harm group. Thereby, it identifies the victim group versus them being able to hide behind this flatness of Blackness or minority and people of color, where they can say, well, we don't know who the harm group was. Well, that's why it's important that we continue to do what we do with working with our legal community to help us shape arguments where we be removed out of race and into a lineage and ethnicity as other ethnic groups here are.
Okay. And so we have probably about another 5-10 minutes to wrap up here. But can you explain peoplehood and how peoplehood is important in terms of like the OMB?
So when it comes to peoplehood is essentially a collective of people who share the same lineage, the same ethnicity, the same history, right? And we are a peoplehood, meaning we are a special, specific group to this soil. We have federal citizenship as a result of the harms that we have gone through relative to slavery. When those of us who were emancipated by the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863, they too belong to our quote unquote peoplehood, just like those of us who may not have been in the Confederate States during the Emancipation Proclamation. Then you know that we gained our freedom in 1865 by way of the 13th Amendment, right? And so we all are of one collective group, but that peoplehood has been kind of, in my words, diluted by the American government. And that dilution happened when the OMB was birthed, when they retermed us out of our original identifiers, such like when we were enslaved, we were considered Negro. And those were a specific people, a specific group. They were, in essence, a peoplehood or a people group. They were the Negro enslaved. And when we were freed, we became the Negro freedmen. And those statuses matter relative to us litigating and legislating. And so we have to understand what it means that peoplehood just simply means a specific lineage group of people who share the same experiences, on the same landmass, same cultural experiences. That is what peoplehood means when it comes to the Black American, Negro, freedman, the African American. Now, because African American, thanks to the work of the California advocates, that African American term has now set precedents by way of defining what an African American is. And so it again allowed us to take hold, if you will, and grab hold of all of our identifiers that house our rich history and our contributions here in the United States. Under those terms, Negro, Freedman, Black American, and African American. Now, those are terms that kind of recognize our peoplehood, if you will, when it comes to that specific lineage group that share the same information, lineage, culture, and harms and trauma. We call ourselves a foundational population of Black American. We share the harms and trauma of those formerly enslaved, and we are their descendants. And that is what the peoplehood means.
All right, thank you for that, son. As a matter of fact, before we go, because you and Judge Barber have done such a wonderful job in explanation and explaining a lot of this stuff, this is in tradition, so here we go. All right, so in tradition, when things are explained well and you guys come in, do a great job, got to give you the wonderful fire. So thank you very much, Judge Barber and Son, for coming and doing a great job in explaining and giving us clarification. Not only Judge Barber in your candidacy, but also the judicial system in Maryland. Thank you for that, because we like to teach on here as well, right? I like to learn, and we've learned a lot today, so definitely appreciate you too. Now, Judge Barber, is there a website where people can go to support your candidacy?
Yes, there is. www.barber, the number 4, judge.net. So it's barber4judge.net.
All right, wonderful. And Son, is there anything like social media that people could reach out to you or not? I don't know.
Yeah, so I can be reached at my government name at Asan Powell, or on Twitter, or rather X, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, you can reach me at captaskforce.org, and it's Cap Task Force on Twitter, on X, and Facebook, and what's the other one? TikTok. And also, and that's the same for Judge Barber. You can find her on Twitter at Barber4Judge, on Twitter and on TikTok and on Facebook as well.
Barber for Justice on Facebook.
Thank you.
And you've done a phenomenal job, Son Powell. You've been a godsend in terms of a campaign manager. She's done phenomenal work in bringing my candidacy to the forefront. We're still busy fighting every day and making awareness of the importance of this election.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And thank you, Yamoya and Kim. I know I didn't get a chance to see you, but we know that you're back there. Thank you all for hosting us.
Of course. Well, thank you. You're always welcome on this platform, you and Judge Barber.
Thank
and
you.
We wish you well in all your endeavors that you do, because it seems like you put in great work for the community as well as the Son. So we try to highlight those in our community that are, doing positive things, because we hear a lot of negative things, especially right now that's going on with the election. We hear a little back and forth, especially with the two-party system. And by the way, since we're talking about, the election process, there are actually other candidates running for president besides,
yes, there's a Green Party candidate, Jill Stein, and there's the Libertarian Party candidate. So yes, there are others running for president, and so it's not just a two-party system.
So Judge, we got about another 1 or 2 minutes. I just want to. So what has been like a challenge in terms of, for you and the Son? Maybe this is, so you're the campaign manager. Like, what has been one of the challenges in terms of campaigning so far that you've been trying to overcome?
Well, having a campaign is a challenge because you have to be well financed. Sometimes people might support you with donations, which is great. We take any donations of any size, but you have to also be ready for challenges. For example, I know in the case of Stacey Abrams, when she ran for governor in Georgia, there was a concern about the fairness of the process and the purging of voting. You have to have a legal team ready to go to bat and challenge unfair election process matters, including purging voter records and implementing laws so that, or gerrymandering laws. But oftentimes in the campaign front, you might see more um, issues that come up at the voting polls. For example, people taking their campaign buttons, especially election workers or judges, taking their campaign literature into the polling areas and and polling people telling voters that you must vote for all four or something like that. And really, there's no requirement. You can vote for one as opposed to two on the ballot or four on the ballot. So being aware of those folks at the polls that are, oh, you're at the wrong poll, scams like that. No, you don't vote here. You vote over yonder, and sending people on a wild goose chase because those tactics, they need to be fought vigorously. And you have to have machines out there to make those challenges to, for example, reducing the election poll booths to two when you have thousands of people waiting in line for hours to vote, and making them at a small, changing the location, making it at a small shopping center strip, and only 5 parking spaces, and you have thousands of voters trying to come in and vote. So foolishness like that happens, and you have to have um, the teams in force, the legal forces in force to combat that, so that people are not disenfranchised.
Yeah, and I think some of the real challenges as serving as a campaign manager, as Honorable Claudia Barber said, one, of course, is donations. Two is getting a consistent team together. You always have volunteers on the onset. I think sometimes people get kind of starstruck, if you will, about, oh, I'm working for a candidate. But as the work intensifies, what you find is people kind of go AWOL on you. So that has been a challenge in making sure that the candidate is booked in local spaces, local restaurants, local events. What I've found to be a challenge is the establishment is very strong, right? And so once the establishment has their minds fixed on to whom they want the winner to be, those of us who are the less likely one that they want to win, you are targeted in ways that you don't understand. You can spend hours a day putting up signs, and then you go back the next day, and the signs have been taken down. And I don't mean just the small street signs, but I mean the signs that you literally bang down in that are 4 by 6, 6 by 8 signs. People literally come up overnight and they take those signs down. And understand that those signs cost money, and also the labor that goes into it. Then you have people who just put out just flat out misinformation about the candidate, right? When the candidate is booked to speak, what I've found is people have literally called and canceled the speaking engagement. And you never know who it is, of course, because the establishment they are very well funded, and therefore they have the things such like that. So there are some major challenges to working with a what I call a grassroots candidate, but it's not a challenge that you cannot overcome, right? With your commitment and your dedication and you leading your campaign team and the way that you keep them engaged, and helping them to understand that when we started this thing, we were at this amount of time, and now we're at 24 more days, and we're going to close this out the best way that we can. Keeping that enthusiasm and that energy going has been the most rewarding piece of the overall campaign. Otherwise, the challenges are so very uphill, and it's a steep uphill battle relative to those challenges that we would spend another hour here just going over. But those are some of them. Just people taking down your signs, people giving misinformation, the cancellation of previous scheduled events, just the ugly smear campaigns that go on has been a major challenge for us. And then keeping people committed and dedicated to the work as it intensifies for this last 30-day stretch.
Wow. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that. So for those viewers who are watching, please, if you have a chance, donate anything you can, to Judge Barber's campaign, if you can, or just, support in any type of way. At least go to her website if you can. Look up the article that we mentioned a little bit earlier, and just do what you can to, help out Judge Barber in this her candidacy, because this is important that we have, members who are fighting for the community that are in these positions. So thank you very much, Judge Barber.
Let me just add one other thing quickly. If you donate $40 or more to Judge Claudia Barber's campaign, we will send you out a personalized signed book. Her book will be autographed and sent to you. So that's one of our fundraising campaigns that we're doing. You will receive an autographed signed book if it's a $40 or more donation. And you can purchase that through the website, or you can purchase it on Amazon.
Now, one other thing in Maryland, campaign donations are limited for candidates to $6,000. So it's a donation of any size up to $6,000.
Correct.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. So everyone who wants to donate, you get, put your $40 in, you get a wonderful book signing from Judge Barber. Okay. And just to note, now, Asan, I didn't know if the $40 was in tribute to 40 Acres and a Mule, but I'm just making that assumption there.
Then you can make that.
But if it's not, I do like the 40 Acres and a Mule concept.
It is the 40 Acres and a Mule.
All right. It's wonderful. All right, Judge Barber, thank you very much. Asan, as always, thank you very much. And you're always welcome to this platform. And Judge Barber, best to you on this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. All right, family. So on that note, everyone, be safe, take care of yourself, and we will see you next time on that. All right. And we are out. Peace and reparations.
The way it currently stands, forced labor, slavery takes precedence over rehabilitation and public safety.
Oh, by the way, while the Biden administration gives reparations to everyone but freed people, look at the billions he has run over to Ukraine.
We don't have black grocery stores because if you think about it now, just to get in that supply chain, it's almost unheard of.
They don't want the truth to get out. Okay? I don't want to know what my family did or what all these people did and all this stuff like that. Okay? You read that 500-page report.
There's this thing called white superiority and black inferiority. That mindset allows all of the behaviors that we've seen across generations, allows for the construction of these policies and practices and systems and structures that continue to oppress us. This is not a handout. This is a debt that is owed.
Allensworth was like the internet of his time in 1904, 1905.
The total black population in California is about 2.6 million. And then of that, the descendants compose about 2.2 million of that. So California, with a multi-billion-dollar surplus, can absolutely afford to satisfy the international terms for reparations, beginning with compensation.
Any financial obstacle that exists that impedes the success of increasing financial prosperity needs to be dealt with and eliminated.
No matter where we've been, no matter what part of this fight we've been in, we've been harmed, and we've had harm done to us specifically.
When I got to Los Angeles, this was some of the worst segregation I'd ever seen. And remember, I'm telling you, I'm from Mississippi.
Because as you can see, I'm giving you broken history right now, you know? But I had to give it to you guys today. I said, no, I got to show them this because it's so precious and nobody really knows about it.
Black people don't have that kind of luxury. Our historically black communities have been redistricted multiple times.
Now listen, if you can't handle the TR roof, don't tune in.